Hi, I'm Jim Shockey. I'm an outdoor television host. I've got two television shows, Uncharted and Jim Shockey's Hunting Adventures. Hunting Adventures running into its 13th year, I believe, this year, airing on the Outdoor Channel. I'm also an outfitter up in Canada, in the Yukon, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia. Have been for 20, 25 years now. And occasionally a writer, but not as good as John Phillips, my good friend. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you how I got here. My career path actually started out of university. I thought I was going to be a multi-millionaire developer, billionaire developer, real estate developer. And unfortunately, 1981, the interest rates went up to 23%, and I walked away from my projects. I didn't owe anybody any money, 10 houses and 3 apartment buildings, and ended up virtually unemployable with no options. So I started an antique business, buying garage sale junk and turning it into antiques. That's where I learned any business acumen that I have, because it was survive or starve. But I always knew at that same time that that was never my career, that was never my destiny. So I, about 30 years ago, started writing for hunting magazines. I would read the articles by my heroes. At that time, it was a little bit after Jack O'Connor, so the writers at that time were Jim Zumbo, great man. Chuck Adams was one of my heroes at the start. I was actually a bow hunter, and of course John Phillips, holding the camera right behind. I don't know if you can see him. These men inspired me to pick up a typewriter in those days and start writing. So it was 30 years ago I started writing for outdoor magazines. Published my first article in a magazine called Bowbender magazine. Kathleen Windsor was the editor. Kathleen, if you're out there, hey, thank you very much for buying that article. And the $35 that I got for the article, it was well spent. I invested it well, because look where I am now. The same time I realized that I was not that good of a writer to make a living at it. So I had to figure out some way in the outdoor industry to make a living. And when I looked at it, I could sell t-shirts, but Bill Jordan already had that pretty much covered. And I could invent something, but I wasn't that smart. But what I did like to do was hunt, and I wasn't too bad at it. So I looked at that part of the industry, and that was also the part that I liked the best, and realized, well, my only hope was a guide, which I quickly checked off the list as not a possibility, because I wouldn't make enough money to live on, or my type of live. But the outfitters that hired the guides seemed to make a lot of money. The problem was you had to have a lot of money to start with, relatively speaking. To buy your first outfitting territory in British Columbia was, I think it was $300,000. I didn't have that. But I did mortgage everything we had. My wife Louise was supportive of this. I don't know if I explained to her the ramifications if I failed to produce bears for my clients, or if I didn't find any clients. But she supported me. That was, I think, if I had one key element in my career that's brought me to this point, not even I think, I know, it was Louise, the support of my soulmate, my spouse, my wife, for the last 30 years through all of these ventures. Once I struck a deal with the outfitter that owned the territory prior to me, it was a balloon payment. I think I came up with, I don't know, $50,000, and I had to come up with another $250 after the first year or something like that. It was a pretty rough deal. I would lose my 50. So I worked very hard that first year to book enough clients and find them enough bears and try and do it all myself to have the money to pay that gentleman, because he would have taken the territory back. I made the balloon payment, and we were on our way as outfitters. I then picked up a couple of territories in Saskatchewan for whitetail deer. This was back just after Milo Hansen killed the world's record in '93 in Saskatchewan. We outfitted there, I think we got those numbers up to about 130 hunters a year we took in 3 different territories. Then in about 2001, I bought the Yukon Rogue River outfitting territory. We still run that now. That's running into its 12th, 13th year. And about that same time, I started my own television show, Jim Shockey's Hunting Adventures on the Outdoor Channel. Prior to that, on Realty Outdoors, I was one of the co-hosts for a segment on home videos for 5 years. I think that was running on the old TNN network, the Nashville network, which now is, I think they're doing all Xbox stuff. I don't even know what they do anymore. But the Outdoor Channel came on the scene, thank goodness sakes. And that gave us a home for our hunting television shows. And in the last 13 years, it's been nothing but fun, games, and hunting for me.